You don't start a business for wealth and fame or whatever. You start a business because you solve a problem and you care about this problem that you're solving. The global sanitation crisis is one of the greatest killers of our time. 3 billion people don't have a safe place to go to the bathroom globally. Almost 1 billion people practice open defecation where they poop outside looking for places to go to the bathroom. And the people that are most vulnerable are women and girls, where when they relieve themselves, they can get raped, they can get pillaged, they can get accosted. It's a real problem. So we've helped over 60,000 families gain access to clean toilets in India, and that numbers will reach hundreds of thousands. And also to date, we've helped over 6 million trees get saved.
Hello, welcome, and thank you for being here with us. It is my birthday week, and so I have a gift for you. I have put together a gift package of courses and Presence Collective membership. It goes live today for a week and is just £108. For that, you will get access to the Style and Presence Summit recordings, 3 months of Presence Collective membership, Rituals for Wellbeing, Presence Meditation 101, the whole library of Presence workshops, which is about 15 on themes such as sacred activism and energy medicine, and the gift package for my book Intuition, which includes workshops and the recording from the beautiful launch event that we had with live music. I am not one to tell you how much money you are saving, as for me it's not about that, but it's a lot. I want more people to have access to all this amazing wisdom and inspiration at this time. And I would love for more of you to come and be part of Presence Collective so that we can connect deeper and spend more time together. And so this is my gift to you. If you join today, then you can join our Presence Circle and Full Moon dance party tonight. And for the whole of March, we're forming a Dawn Club where we'll walk outside each day and watch the sunrise and share some learnings in the community space and photographs and inspiration from this experience. You can access this gift only in our newsletters, either the one from The Future is Beautiful or amisha.co.uk. So if you're not on the newsletter, go to either of these websites and it's in the newsletter today and the one that you will receive next week as well. Thank you so much for all of you that have been reading my new book, Intuition, Access Your Inner Wisdom, Trust Your Instincts, Find Your Path. I love hearing from you and what practices or principles are resonating with you. Today's guest is going to inspire you into how you actually make something happen in the world. The interview was recorded in 2 parts. The first part recently, and the second part was from last November for the Style and Presence Summit. That was our reclamation of worth. The summit featured 52 incredible female speakers who were inspiring, moving, and powerful. The whole summit is something so beautiful, and you can watch the videos either through my birthday gift or by going to www.styleandpresence.com and purchasing the collection there. My guest is Miki Agrawal, a serial social entrepreneur who was named Fast Company's most creative people, young global leader by the World Economic Forum, and Inc.'s most impressive women entrepreneurs. In addition to building her companies THINX, TUSHY, and Wild to a collective valuation of over $200 million, she is a #1 best-selling author of Do Cool Shit, a step-by-step guide to building your dream business, and now Disrupt Her, a modern manifesto that questions and confronts 13 major areas in our lives: money, career, relationships, friendships, the culture of owning more stuff, perfectionism, takedown culture, etc., and disrupts them one by one. In this honest and open conversation, we explore the themes of disruption, social entrepreneurship, and audacious resilience. In this conversation called Powered by the Fire of Being, we contemplate the question, how do you bring your idea to life and make disruptive change in this world? I hope that you enjoy this episode and that it fires up something in you. Welcome to The Future is Beautiful, with me, your host, Amisha Gadiali. On this show, we explore the weave between politics, spirituality, creativity, and sustainability. It's time for us to move beyond silos and into an integrated way of being. Every one of us has ideas and personal experiences to share that can lead us to a brighter future. This is the revolution. Despite the challenges we face as a global community or the pressures that we meet in our daily lives, when we stop and dare to dream, to ask ourselves the big questions, and to share what we are already doing, we create the future that we wish to wake up for. That future is beautiful. Miki, I am absolutely delighted to welcome you to The Future is Beautiful. Thank you for being here.
So happy to be here with you.
I would love for you to share with us a little bit around the concept and how you've made TUSHY happen. It's such a cool thing to be innovating something as everyday and human and something that all of us do, going to the toilet, and yet something that we don't talk about. And what I love about what you've done with this business is the way in which it affects different people in different parts of the world in different ways. And so on one hand, it's like the waste element of the way that we toilet in more kind of Western developed countries. And then on the other hand, it's providing toilets in places where toileting is actually a really dangerous thing. And so can you share more about how all this came together and how you've managed like having that impact in different parts of the world?
Yeah. So TUSHY, like all my other previous businesses, were born out of a necessity. And, our favorite saying, necessity is the mother of invention. For me, I developed a very intense and extreme hyperthyroid condition, which one of the byproducts and side effects of having a hyperthyroid condition was pooping a lot and just like, lost a ton of weight and then was pooping a lot, up to 8 times a day, which got really, really intense. And that's not exaggeration. And they were pretty big poops too. So I was like, where is this coming from? I have no idea. One of the things that was really hard was going to the bathroom and just using dry paper, and it was just rubbing my bottom raw. And I would eventually had to start to take a shower every time I went to the bathroom just to like wash underneath water to be just gentle with it. My first Valentine's Day present, or second Valentine's Day present, my then boyfriend, now husband, got me a really kind of crappy bidet product from like China or something. And I attached it to my toilet. It was a beautiful gift from his heart, but it was sort of just this random thing. And I attached it to my toilet and it completely changed my life. It totally transformed my life into something that was every time I went to the bathroom, it was like such an interruption of my day, jump in the shower, so time consuming, to something so soothing. It helped my chapped area. And it was just amazing. And it just, in that moment, I was like, oh my God, I'm half Japanese, half Indian. I've been obsessed with bidets my whole life, but I always thought that they were like thousands of dollars and super expensive, and discovered that, whoa, like this could be done really affordably. And I said, I'm going to bring this concept to America, and then develop the best in class bidet attachment. We call it best in ass, but bidet attachment product that attaches to your existing toilet in 10 minutes. There's no plumbing or electrical required. It's just 1, 2, 3 install. Anyone who can't like hang a painting can install this in literally 10 minutes flat. And you just take your toilet seat off and pop it on. It connects right to your clean water same water you brush your teeth with, where you turn your water off behind. It's completely clean water, it's not from the bowl or your tank. And it just literally in 10 minutes it's installed, and it's only $79. And so it was just sort of this game changing thing that I was so excited to build and bring to this country. And so it always starts with an issue. And I also really, really understood every time I used toilet paper, I felt so wasteful. The average American uses 57 sheets of toilet paper per day. We go through 15, toilet paper consumption, equates to 15 million trees chopped down every single year. And it's just insane. And they're going through the Canadian boreal forest, which is one of the biggest carbon sinks in the world, to chop these beautiful 1,000-year-old trees like use them to wipe your ass with them. These things, these creatures that have been around for millennia that really like gives us oxygen, gives us life on this planet. And we're all of a sudden just chopping them down and wiping our asses with them with the most disrespect. It just didn't compute to me. And so to develop a product that really supported people and the planet was to me just a deeply passionate opportunity. And then, of course, my father's from India, like your family. My father came to America with $5 in his pocket from India, having grown up with his family selling saris in town of Benares and in Varanasi, India. I learned recently that my father was one of the, like almost a billion people who didn't have access to clean toilets growing up as a child for a few years. And it's a real issue. The global sanitation crisis is one of the greatest killers of our time. 3 billion people don't have a safe place to go to the bathroom globally. Almost a billion people practice open defecation where they poop outside, looking for places to go to the bathroom. And the people that are most vulnerable are women and girls, where when they relieve themselves, they can get raped, they can get pillaged, they can get accosted. It's a real problem. So millions and millions and millions of women all over the world are still today holding in their pee and their poop all day long, waiting till sundown, going in groups, sometimes up to 5 miles to go and relieve themselves to be safe. And it's just, this is the reality of millions of people. And it's just not okay at this point when we have access, we have technology, we have the ability to offer and where every human on earth can have access to clean toilets and, not cause issues in water systems when people are defecating outside and gets into the water, then that contaminated water creates major issues for people's systems. People have dysentery and they die. Millions of children die every year from just bad water conditions. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that people defecate outside. When I came up with the idea of starting TUSHY, wanted to absolutely weave in the environmental solution, but also weave in the global sanitation crisis and be a solution for that as well. And so for every TUSHY sold, we fund, a company in India called Samagra. And why we chose them is because they don't just go to a local random village and drop a toilet on there and then leave. They go and they spend 6 months in these villages. And in those 6 months, they build these toilets. They teach the community why defecating and pooping in toilets is important, because these people have never done it before. So they don't know why it's important. But over the course of 6 months, they start to learn, oh, wow, when I go to the bathroom, this toilet, my village, like all of a sudden doesn't stink as much. All of a sudden my children, I am not getting sick nearly as much. All of a sudden, like it just feels like a better human experience to live in my village where there's one specific place to go to the bathroom, not just pooping everywhere outside. So it's a very clear distinction. The way Samagra does it is they say, I'll give you a bar of soap if you come and use this toilet. I will give you, minutes on your mobile phone if you come and use this toilet. So they incentivize the village people, because otherwise the village will be like, I'm not doing it. But, oh, I get free soap. Oh, I get a free minutes on my phone. Oh, I get all these free things. I'm going to start using this toilet. And then over the course of 6 months, they're actually seeing the genuine upgrade to their lives, to their families, to the health of them, their communities, their water systems, and themselves. And they're like, all right, this actually is a real solution to a real problem. I didn't even know what was causing my dysentery and causing my sickness, but now I do, because I see with my own eyes over 6 months, and now I'm going to adopt it. And then Samagra then hires local people, trains them in it, and local people are now having to pay into making sure these toilet systems are clean. And so each family pays $1.25 per family per month to use these toilets that they have to maintain themselves. And so it becomes this community experience together. And now what Samagra is doing is that sometimes when communities kind of let their cleanliness slide, there's an actual monitor inside the bathrooms called like the loo tech or something where you can, it basically gathers the atmosphere and tells you if it stinks or if it has bacteria in the air. And you can actually rate the experience on cleanliness, on all the different aspects of it, so that they can gather the data and then they can go to the community and say, hey, your toilet is not clean right now. Your community is suffering. go and clean it. Or we can come back and train you guys again to clean it to make sure it's maintained properly. So it's just a true lasting solution. It's not just a band-aid. I'm going to do an altruistic thing and as a nonprofit, go and build a toilet and leave. That toilet becomes a cesspool of even deeper infection, becomes an even bigger like eyesore in the community of which people are so upset it was installed. It takes a long-term approach, like the teach a man to fish approach instead of just giving a man a fish approach. And that's why we support Samagra. And to date, we've helped over 60,000 families gain access to clean toilets in India. And that numbers after this year, will reach hundreds of thousands. And also to date, we've helped over 6 million trees get saved. And, we support huge forestry projects, huge resoiling projects globally. We with a pig factory, and they take these pig manure and they use it as a way to resoil different parts of the world that really, really need resoiling. I'm really proud of the fact that we are a true social enterprise that not only does well as a business, but also really, truly gives back.
And how is that kind of path of becoming a true social enterprise been? Because I found that in the world of social enterprise, that there's a lot of like gray area over like what a social enterprise actually is and whether what you're doing is actually effective in the communities that you might be trying to do it. And then of course, like a lot of like greenwashing and marketing or like good intentions, but then kind of making more of a mess. How has that journey of learning been for you and kind of being able to lead your social enterprise in a way where you genuinely know that you are offering something that's beautiful?
Yeah. And this is exactly why we chose Samagra and not another nonprofit that's just doing this sort of like altruistic band-aid thing that doesn't actually work. We really talk to the local people and the local organizations that are truly in the communities who really understand the depths of the problems to then be able to support their solutions to these problems that they know very, very deeply what they are. A lot of times Western countries, even, like the story I always love to talk about, this is not dogging Toms because they really developed the 1-for-1 model and they really started a whole movement that was beautiful and altruistic in its desire. The problem that arose from that, and we learned from that deeply from their experience. And we're so grateful that they led that journey because people love to talk shit about companies like, oh, well, they didn't realize they did this. Well, you have to start somewhere and learn. You have to start somewhere and grow. So we live in this cancel culture, takedown culture where people immediately want to be like, well, you didn't think about this. Like, okay, well, did you go do it yourself and learn that? No, you didn't. So why don't you sit down and listen to what they did and learned, and then we can all learn from that. Yeah. Thank you very much. And so I basically learned from Tom's beautifully that what their altruistic mission was for every shoe that they sell, they give a shoe to somebody in need. The problem with that model that they learned and they found out was that by giving shoes away to local communities in Africa and otherwise, or Brazil and all over the place, it was hurting local businesses and local shoe peddlers and local shoe companies and businesses were failing because an influx of free shoes were arriving in these people's towns. And it was actually creating by accident a welfare model and not an empowerment model. And so by us really watching that and saying, wow, thank you for creating that baseline understanding of what doesn't work, we can now develop something that does. And so what we did with my last company is that we found a local company that made washable menstrual pads, this is from my previous company, THINX. And instead of just giving pads away to local women, we partnered up with a local for-profit business locally in Uganda that made washable pads so they could sell them locally at an affordable price, but they can build their company and build their business, hire local people, create more jobs, build commerce, and also support local women at a subsidized cost of the pads. And so it was a real solution. And when we started working with this company in Uganda called AfroPads early on, they were like 25 employees. And when we stopped working because we got too big and we started our own internal nonprofit, we left them with like almost 200 employees. And so they built their company, they built their business, they supported tens of thousands of more girls and women because they were able to subsidize the cost of the pads because we helped them build their business with an investment in their business. That is a model that worked. And we owe a lot of that understanding through to companies like Tom's, who led the one for one movement.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for bringing up Tom's, because I remember very much at that time, just that there was so much negativity around like how they had like done this awful thing. And of course it had come from such a beautiful intention. And then they evolved. And then when they did the sunglasses, they did it differently. They did it with operations for eyesight, and was like sight for sight, but like in a different way. And it's like, if we don't try things, we don't know. But it's so important to connect to and follow that inspiration to do something beautiful in the world.
That's right. People who immediately jump on the, pointing fingers are the ones who are doing the least, instead of championing people and saying, good for you for trying to make a change. Good for you for giving all of us the ability to understand and learn from you. I just hate this hateful takedown cancel culture that's hurting the people who are the disruptors of the world, that are trying to move society forward and make it better. Like by them developing the 141 model, it has changed literally the landscape of commerce by doing that. And of course, the jealous, the envious, the people who can't do things on their own just want to tear them down. And for me, I'm genuinely, deeply inspired by them. And I think those who are lit up in their lives choose to be inspired, and those who are jealous and envious and angry have to look inward and not point fingers outward. It's an opportunity to be like, oof, I'm feeling these feelings. Let me check in with myself and go deeper so I can find inspiration to go and make change myself. So it's a really beautiful practice. And whenever I see companies like the Toms and like companies who get vilified, I love to go in and champion the shit out of them even more, because I know what their intentions are. I mean, my son's godfather is John Mackey, who's a founder of Whole Foods Market. And, Whole Foods changed the way people eat in this country, period, full stop, end of story. And because he built a $16-18 billion business, people all of a sudden are calling him, like awful corporation capitalist. Meanwhile, he spends, over $250 million on healthcare for his employees, on getting them to be healthy. Meanwhile, he's helped millions of Americans adopt a plant-based diet. They try to get him on, the one cashier, overcharged on asparagus water $5 instead of $3.50. And all of a sudden this huge scandal, and it's like the one time when John was young and made a silly comment about unions, 30 years later, they're bringing that up as if he said it yesterday. It's just shit talking haters who just can't do things on their own and make change. And so I challenge everybody who's listening to turn their envy, turn the negative emotions into inspiration and wowness. Like, wow, like how can I support these people to really make a change in the world?
Beautiful. And the other thing that comes to mind is it's this kind of disease of perfectionism, which is also like a kind of aspect of white supremacy of like, this has to be perfect. And so if someone's doing something, like it has to be perfect. And the reality is like our world isn't perfect. There are going to be consequences of everything, some that you might foresee, some that will be a surprise. As a disruptor, as an innovator, as a social entrepreneur, it's all about like learning and innovating with what happens and then finding the best way.
Yeah. It's like, are you human? Oh, you are. Oh, do you have bad days? Of course you do. Do you sometimes make mistakes? Of course you do. All of a sudden, like you're putting people on these like impossible pedestals and then hoping that they fall because you just feel such negatively about yourself. There's just this, it's really, really interesting to understand the psychology and go really, really deep in the psychology of the why this type of shaming of people like Tom's and these companies like that are so altruistic and so beautiful are, and the fact that these altruistic companies are put on an even higher pedestal, that when, they make a mistake or falter or like a cashier accidentally rings up the wrong thing, that people give people just a bit of rope, like just give them a little courtesy, a little love, a little respect, a little gratitude, a little extra support. How can I support you more to not make these mistakes again? Instead of like trying to take them down because they're so jealous. It's just shitty, versus like, and this is why like the last time we talked, it was really about the film, The Social Dilemma, and how the social media engine, this outrage machine, has really, really tainted the way people think about taking a leap into their lives. Like, I'm going to go and start this. Oh no, I don't want to do that because what if people cancel me? What's going to happen to me? Well, I don't want to start this or launch this, or I'm too scared or living in such fear of what people will say based on this bullshit illusion of social media. And so I'm so excited to support companies that are developing more offline connection, deeper, communities and senses of belonging. Because once that happens, this level of vitriol, I think, will go away when people feel a sense of love and belonging.
Beautiful. And so for our friends listening, this part is coming a bit later in this episode where you can hear what we discussed around the social networks. But I'm really inspired by the way that you use social media, and with your project, Humans Are Fucking Awesome, and your spotlighting of people and what they're doing. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah. So, during COVID, everyone was just so scared of each other. And we just started being like, are you wearing a mask? Are you sick? I know I'm guilty as charged. I'm always like the biggest hypochondriac in the room, like no question. And when someone coughs, I'm like, get away from me. So my husband and I were walking, through the mountains of Santa Barbara during COVID, during the height of COVID. And we just saw these power lines like dancing through the trees. It was not like power lines where it was like, it was like this beautiful like line that spanned miles. And it was just like being held by these two wooden poles. And we were just like, gosh, like humans did that. Humans like lugged these poles up this mountain, like ran this long wire from here all the way miles away there so we can communicate and connect with each other. Like humans fucking awesome. And then we just started talking about all the things that humans have done to make our lives easier. And the fact that we can talk right now over Zoom, over this glass screen, and like we're communicating in real time. You're in London, I'm here in Austin, Texas. It's just humans are fucking awesome. It's like the fact that we can eat rich, delicious food, the fact that we can do so many things, like fly across the world in the matter of hours. Like humans are fucking awesome. So it was this huge homage to like, let's spread, humanity, not germs. The idea was to create this fun art project, simply there's no ulterior motive, no motive at all, but to celebrate everyday humans who are doing fucking awesome things. And people can nominate each other and just, celebrate each other. Again, find inspiration from others. You can't nominate yourself. You have to nominate others. You just go, it's actually Humans Are Fucking Awesome on Instagram, at Humans Are Fucking Awesome. There's no G on Instagram. And you can just go there and you can nominate people, and you can just read human stories of everyday people doing epic shit around the world. They don't have to be like world changing and like Tesla or whatever, but it could be like an everyday person who created like a small thing that just changed the lives of a few people in their town, or did something of service, or just did something fucking awesome, in their lives, like arts or whatever. It was just born out of a celebration of just the deep gratitude and like wowness of the human mind and spirit when really put in that positive, generative way. And then my social media for me is just really a place to create art, to share knowledge that I've learned, to, share the things I'm thinking about. It's not, it's also share that the fun, the humanity of my life and the family, what I'm experiencing, thinking, going through. That's all the things. It's not meant to be that serious, but it's, the last year of my life has been such a huge deep dive into my own darker emotions that, we've learned to sort of hide for so long. What does fear really feel like deep in my bones? Like, what does shame really feel like deep in my bones? Like, why are we so scared of those feelings, and how can we express them in a way that celebrates fear, celebrates shame, that actually is part of such a deep, soulful part of our human existence? I want to share all of the things that I've been feeling and experiencing with the hopes that it would help liberate or inspire others to also dive deep into their fear, their shame, their anger, their sadness, also their ingenuity, their excitement, their what they're working on, their love for life, their laughter, the joys. Like, the human experience is so multidimensional, and we often choose to focus on, look at all the heroic shit I've done with my life and just celebrate that, versus like, let me show you the depths of despair, of sadness, of betrayal, of anger, of darkness that is equally important to the human experience as the joy, the magic, the fantastic parts. To celebrate it all allows those things to move. You know, what I learned this last year is that emotions are just visitors. They come, they visit. Joy is a visitor. You know, sadness is a visitor. Pain, shame, anger, you know, fear, all of those are just visitors. And if we give them space and hold them, they go off and they go and do their thing. And then in the meantime, it's replaced with joy, and it's replaced with other visitors. And to not take every emotion so seriously, so emotional, it's like, it makes it fun. It makes it a lot more fun.
Totally. And it's changing the paradigm of leadership as well, that you can be a successful social entrepreneur and still have shame and have epic joy and have sadness and all of that stuff, and kind of taking us away from that sense of presenting masks in situations, because it's only through the mask that you can, you know, be taken seriously, and kind of inviting a whole new way of appreciating us as human beings and, you know, our awesomeness, which is in relation to being able to experience all of that.
Yeah.
I'm curious as to what some of the businesses and projects and innovations that you know about that are co-creating a beautiful future that you're excited about.
Yeah. I mean, there's a few. One of them is launching in a few months, which I'm a part of. It's called Tribe. It's my girlfriend Haya's business. She's a dear friend of mine and has an incredible story of resilience and survival, like leaving the Hasidic community with her daughter, and the powerful story of motherhood and like seeking the light, like no matter how hard things are. And for her, her biggest thing of leaving the Hasidic community was to find her community, find her tribe, and develop her people. In that process, she became a community organizer and started launching these tribe dinners where she invited very like-minded people to come in and really, really connect with each other in real life. And then during COVID, when COVID happened, we couldn't gather in real life. She started developing this app called the Tribe app, which is really, really centered around human connection, community building, and belonging, and how to build your community and find out like who your people are in your neighborhood, in your area. So it's like if you're a part of different communities, but you don't know where anyone is, especially now during COVID where everyone's just kind of displaced, you would turn on your phone, find out where your local friends are, and then be able to convene offline and very easily share food costs and very easily, you know, find prompts to deepen relationships, your relationship with. Like, it's just an incredibly powerful tool for finding your community and then developing it offline, and it giving you those tools to really, really make it happen. I think it's such a needed thing. And it's really made with what all of us are really looking for, which is, you know, how to deepen and feel so deeply like we belong somewhere. And so I'm genuinely excited to support her, to help her build her business. And it comes out in about 6 to 8 months, I think, or at least a beta. Stay tuned. The other thing that I'm really excited, inspired, and just genuinely just wowed by is Daybreaker. And that's, you know, that is my sister's business. And it's really my friends. I mean, my friends started just some of the most epic companies, but my sister's the newest company is called Dose by Daybreaker. And Dose is a daily joy practice. It's movement. It's getting that blood flowing. You're glistening and you're really flowing, but it's a daily joy practice. So just like meditation's a practice, yoga's a practice, a daily joy practice is just so, so, so integral in finding the light in ourselves. Yes, it's important to experience all the emotions, but finding that your stasis is joy is actually really, really important. You know, not to be constantly like emotional, you know, like roller coaster, but like your stasis is joy. When anger comes, welcome it. When sadness comes, welcome it. But your stasis, your homeostasis is joy. And that is a practice. And to do it a daily practice, if you go to dose.daybreaker.com, DOSE, you can actually go and do your own happiness blueprint. You fill out your own happiness blueprint to understand, it's free, to understand how happy you are. And then they actually give you a dose, your prescription of what kind of things you need to do to be at your utmost happiness. And so DOSE stands for dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins. So it's your 4 happy your brain chemicals to make you your happiest you can be. And so doing this happiness blueprint is so important. She worked with the Greater Good Science Center, which is one of the most celebrated science-backed research organizations to develop this happiness blueprint. So when any one of you can go on dose.daybreaker.com and click on happiness blueprint, you can literally spend 10 minutes to really understand how happy you are and then what you need to do. And then DOSE will be those exercises, those dances, those classes, those meditation, the breath work, all the different modalities that can help you get to the optimum level of dose of all of your happy brain chemicals firing all at once. And I think in this time of COVID, in this time of like loneliness and aloneness for so many people and fear, doing a daily practice of joy is so critical. I do it every day. It has changed my life. It is so, so, so important. And then the third company that I will, of course, promote is my husband's company, which is called Tribute. They've done, I think over 3 million videos to date. And it's also one of those just yummy, heart, soul, like filling, beautiful companies where what it is imagine you woke up on your birthday and you opened your computer and you saw like a link from Tribute, and you click on the link and all of a sudden a video starts playing of everybody in your life telling you why they love you and how you've impacted their life. And you can't get away from when one person says, gosh, you've really changed my life, or your love, it's so important to me. And and like how you show up in the world, like you can be like, yeah, whatever. But when you have like everyone in your life saying the same things to you over and over again, you kind of drink it in and you're just like, wow, like I feel really, really seen. I feel really special. And during this time of COVID, like Tribute literally 20x'd his business because all the weddings, all the graduations, all the birthdays got canceled and everybody turned to Tribute. And he built his company from 2 people to 100 people in literally the span of 4 months. And it's just spreading joy and love and gratitude across the globe. And it has given people this thing to watch and cherish while they're alone in their homes and feeling like really lonely. They get to feel loved by everyone that they know through this beautiful tribute to them. So it's tribute.co, and anybody who's affected by loneliness can do it for free. Usually it's $25 to set up a Tribute because of the COVID stuff. They've made it completely free to set one up. So if you go to tribute.co, it is absolutely just a stunning, beautiful, gratitude-filled, like important business, I think, in this world.
Hello. We're taking a short pause from the conversation. On behalf of our team and our community, thank you for being here and co-creating The Future is Beautiful. Much dedication, love, and time goes into the production of this show. We believe in being advertising free in a world that's always trying to sell us stuff we don't need. And so we make this show with you and for you, thanks to your support. There are 3 ways you can be more involved, so we can share the vision, wisdom, and creativity here as we explore what it means to be a human in this time. You can support the podcast by sharing it with your friends, posting episodes on social media, and doing iTunes reviews. You can support as a patron by making a monthly or one-off donation of your choice. And with this, you join the Global Patrons group and monthly video calls where we share connection and insight. You get to know the other amazing patrons from around the world, their stories and their work, and you offer direct support to me and the team, as well as being brought into the behind the scenes of creating something like this. It sounds like a lot, but it's as much or as little as you want to get involved in. You can become a member of Presence, our membership collective of care and practice, where we explore how to embody the themes of the podcast with workshops, calls, special events, tree whispers, and powerful tools, practices, and rituals that you can bring into your life. This is open to absolutely everybody as we create an inclusive and diverse space that celebrates well-being as a human right, where we explore together what it means to be creative, courageous, and connected to ourselves, each other, and the earth. This is about embodying sacred activism. We love meeting patrons and Presence members and how being part in this way weaves our lives together, as well as making this show possible. If anything from this conversation has moved or inspired you, please get more involved. All information can be found at www.thefutureisbeautiful.co/community. This show really can't go on without your patronage and presence membership, so please do make it happen. And now, back to the conversation. How do you find within that the sense of worth and also that sense of agency to create something, to bring something into the world? I mean, you have disrupted some incredible industries and brought in products that have shifted, like, not only the way in which we interact with something that's very much like fundamental to our kind of daily life, but also through that it's been able to have this like much bigger impact in the world. And I guess with that in mind, like, as we're in this time where perhaps some of our friends listening are, feeling confused and feeling pulled in all of the different directions through that divisiveness that exists, it makes it harder to kind of find your, like, okay, this is me, and this is what I'm here to do in the world, what I'm going to bring into the world.
So I've been reading this book by Thich Nhat Hanh called The Heart of the Buddha's Teachings. I don't know if you've read it or seen it. One of the things that he talks a lot about is the concept of stopping, calming, resting, healing. And it's so the idea of stopping, calming, resting, healing. And the idea is when there's a lot going on and we feel like it's a bit overwhelming, just to stop. And the stopping can be as simple as taking 3 long, deep breaths. And in the calming, the second part is calming. So once you've stopped, you calm. And in the calming, you practice deeper looking. And deeper looking means, ask yourself the deep questions. What do I want with my life? Who do I want to spend it with? Why do I care about this? This is really what I want. Can I be passionate about this for a really long time if I'm interested in starting a business or joining a company or whatever? Just asking ourselves like these important questions while being calm. Because we can ask ourselves questions when we're stressed out or when we're in fight or flight or when we're feeling like our back's against the wall. And I think a lot of people are feeling that right now during this pandemic, and people just don't know what to do sometimes. And so often when we just kind of stop and calm, in that calming, you create space. And in that space, like the right gut instincts will come through. I mean, we're all intuitive beings. Like intuition is a muscle, like you flex like anything else. And if you start listening, you start really listening, then your intuition really speaks to you. And oftentimes, like in my past, I've didn't listen to my intuition, and it just absolutely it screwed things up in my life. And the more and more I like stop and calm and listen to that deeper intuition, like it always leads me to the right place, from a place of my higher self, not from my fearful lower self that's, in that sort of survival mode. So stopping, calming, deeper looking space, the right intuition comes through. And then resting. You think about animals, animals, when they get injured in the forest, a fox like crawls into a tree and just literally lays there for 2 weeks, no eating, barely drinking, like maybe like licking some water here and there, but like basically not moving for 2 weeks. And then it comes out and it's good to go. You think about that. I don't know if you watched that octopus documentary. That's just incredible. When that octopus got his leg cut off by the shark, it just kind of went into for a couple of weeks into its own cocoon, and then it emerged and its little leg started growing again. Humans, instead of when in a frenetic space, instead of resting, it's like pushing through. What's next? I got to find my next job. I got to figure this out. I got to go and, oh my God, what do I do? And it's this sort of, again, this frenetic, like I got to do the next thing right away and forget the trauma I went through, forget all the shit I've been through, forget how scared I am. I'm just going to like push through. And that's just the world that we live in, this societal pressure to continue to like, don't talk about hard things, trauma, shame, fear, like just charge forward. And I've learned, because I've done the charging forward, really messed up my thyroid, leaky gut. I had physical ramifications from trying to push through. only when I started listening to my body and saying, oh, like, what do you need? Like, how can I support you? Okay, you need to rest, go sleep. Yesterday, like I napped for a couple of hours, like, because I didn't sleep very much during the weekend because I went to New York and it was just a little hectic. And so just checking in with myself and saying, okay, like I am worthy of rest and relaxation. And I think for me, like I'm just figuring that out. Like Indian father, Japanese mother, immigrant mentality, entrepreneur in New York City for 20 years, like indoctrinated by the work, work, work mentality of New York City. The undoing of that has been a really fascinating story. And so I think it's like recognizing that we are all worthy of rest and relaxation. We're all worthy of stopping and calming and resting. Because from that place, again, from the stopping, calming, resting space, healing, stopping, calming, resting creates healing. From that healed state, healing state, we're so much more creative. We're so much more excited, so much more alive, so much more abundance mindset when we feel like we're rested and we feel like we've looked deeper into our lives. And so there is this level of healing that comes from the stopping, calming, and resting. I just urge everyone to feel worthy of rest and relaxation. Like you can rest and you can take a whole day. What my girlfriend Brooke said to me, it's like instead of being productive, I'm being reproductive. Which for me, it's like I'm working on having a baby. It's been like, a year long, a year and a half long sort of storyline. I had my first baby 3 years ago, but this time around it's been more challenging. And but also I'm an entrepreneur and I'm also still in that go sort of high stress vibe mode because I've just been used to that my whole life. And to really change that to say, no, I'm worthy of rest and relaxation. I can delegate and trust and rest in my own presence. And I can rest in other people's presence. I don't have to be on all the time, and I think all of that has created a much better soup of positive vibration and base to what's to come. Because if we're coming from a frenetic energy, you can't really create. Your creativity goes to the back. In the same way you're reproductive, when you're stressing out, your reproductive hormones take a back seat to your stress hormones. Your stress hormones are like keeping you alive, saving you from the bear. Even if there's no bear, it's the email bear and the stress work bear and the, all of that. So your reproductive hormones become secondary. And so for me to be like, oh, by resting and relaxing, I'm not being productive, but I'm being reproductive, which is the most productive thing you possibly do is make a child, so just so much rewiring, so much undoing, and so much listening to our own intuition, I think can change so much for people to have agency, to feel like, oh, like I know what I need to do. And that comes when you're in a relaxed state.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've spent most of this year writing a book on intuition, just really for me, recognizing how it's not just about like your own life, but it's how intuition weaves into the greater tapestry of the future that we're creating and what would be possible if we are all taking our next steps through our intuition, and it will lead us somewhere different to where we are.
Instead of like using our heads to drive us, like what is our heart saying? What is our intuition saying? What is our dantian saying? Like our power center saying, which is two fingers below our belly button. That's like where we were birthed from. Like that's our intuition. And we kind of forgot that we have that. And we forgot that that is our agency. Like that is our ability to decide where we're going to go and who we're going to be and who we're going to support and how we're going to show up. All that comes from like wait, who do I really want to be and how do I really want to express? And most people don't even ask those questions until they're like, hit with something challenging or painful. And I don't think you have to go through something painful to look inside. And for me, I had to go through something really painful to take a deeper look and just to be like, oh, like I should have trusted my intuition before bringing these people on, or I should have trusted my intuition when I wanted to let them go, or I should have trusted my intuition for making this decision or that decision. There's no self-blame. I've definitely forgiven myself for a lot, for all of the past things. I do think that it's super, super important for people to really know what their intuition is saying before they make any big decisions in their lives. And that's my big realization for me, is that like, had I trusted my intuition, I wouldn't have attracted, types of people that weren't productive for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. It's absolutely key for this time. And what I'm curious about is what you're sharing. I mean, it's so true. Like, I really believe that rest is one of our last radical acts, and kind of really being able to allow ourselves that space so that we can live our lives in a different aspect of our nervous system. But I'm curious as to if you feel like you could have created, say, something like THINX from a more rested place, or if a disruption like that, if raising capital, creating a big company, if that requires us to push out of that space. Like, yeah, I'm curious as to like if you could do a company like that now with this knowledge and understanding in this way, or if we just have to accept that life has different parts to it, and that sometimes we have to push. And
well, I think it's important to really have a deep focus on what we're trying to create. You can't just be like, I'm intuiting that my business will succeed by 2023 and don't do anything about it. Like that's not realistic either. So, but there's a level in which there's an alternative way to go about building a business that's not stress inducing, that's not super intense. And I think for me, I mean, I've come from, like I said, a very strict Indian father and a Japanese mom, where education and just a strict academic, rigorous life and a constant state of doing was that sort of currency in the family. The doing versus being. Like, can you run a business from a place of being? Like, I think you can once you've established a level of connections, work ethic, trust, understanding of the business world. I think in the beginning, you do need to put in the time to selling their companies. And I think that's where the problem is. Like, people have to fall in love with what they're doing. People have to just get really, really clear that this thing that they're entering into is something that they really want to do. And so, like, in my first book, Do Cool Shit, I always ask myself 3 questions before starting any business. First question is, what sucks in my world? Has to start with me. Second question is, does it suck for a lot of people? It's a pain point that a lot of people are experiencing. It has to be a real problem in the world. Otherwise, it's just racing against other people who are in the same industry. And it's just too competitive. So you want to create a different product that solves a problem for many, many people. And the third question is the most important. Can I be passionate about this issue, cause, or community for a really long time? People don't realize that it takes 10 years to be an overnight success. That saying is true. Like, people are like, oh, wow, THINX just popped up out of nowhere. TUSHY just popped up out of nowhere. And it's like, no, like, I was working on THINX for 6 years before we popped off. And, I was working on TUSHY for 6 years before we popped off. So it's sort of like, takes time. And a lot of people are impatient and they are like, I want to be the next Instagram and sell for $1 billion with 10 people and make 100 million and like retire. That's like the equivalent of winning the lottery, and people just, the incentives again are wrong. And it's like, where it's coming from doesn't feel in alignment, which is wealth, fame, whatever, like stability, which is important, but you don't start a business for stability. You don't start a business for wealth and fame or whatever. You start a business because you solve a problem and you care about this problem that you're solving. You can care about it for a really long time and not make any money potentially, but to care enough about it that you want to continue with it. I think a lot of people don't have that. Again, like, intuition's a muscle, working out is a muscle, working on a passion project is a muscle too, that you have to care about deeply. Yeah. So for THINX, like, what would I have done differently? I probably would have been much slower in my hiring process. I probably would have been much more thoughtful in bringing on senior level executives instead of just a bunch of junior people who were all excited and exciting and, wonderful at their level, but needing a layer between me and, them would have been probably a lot more productive for everyone, for them, for me, for everyone, for the whole company. Just slowing everything down, even if we were on a rocket ship. So it's kind of hindsight's 2020. Like it's easier said than done because like all of a sudden, like we went from nothing to, like 1 million, 2 million, 3 million, 4 million in a month in sales, like boom, 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 like that. And like we just need to hire super quickly. And so that was a big learning lesson for me, was to still take the hiring process extremely seriously, even if we need people desperately in the moment. So with Tushy, I've done a much slower job. I spent 7 months hiring my CEO. I spent a long time, in the process of hiring each person on the team, methodical, calling minimum six references each, so that it's a real process, which I just didn't have in my last company. And it bit me in the butt, after I let people go. It's all lessons. Like in my book, Disruptor, I talk about how the word failure is just such a negative word. And it's like failing forward even. And just like people don't want to fail. People are afraid of failing. They don't want to start because they're afraid of failing. To me, actually, the word failure needs to be replaced with the word revelation. My book Disruptor, I say replace the word failure altogether with revelation. And what can be revealed to me from this experience? Like what were the lessons? What were the learnings? What was the growth moments from that experience? And that's what's exciting. It's like you're no longer entering something worried about failing, but you're entering excited about learning. You're entering excited about having things being revealed to you instead of like, what if I fail? What will people say? That's one of the biggest ones. What will people say? What will people think? Will I lose face? It's like, to who? We're all going to die. It's like, who cares? And yet we all, me included, are affected a lot by, especially when we're empathetic people. And so there's a level for me of like really keeping my space clean. So for Tushy, I have a full C-suite executive team that handles the team. I don't have to necessarily be exposing myself in a way that could harm me this go around. So I've definitely created the right boundaries to protect myself and to protect the company, to protect the team. Our company is on an even faster trajectory and faster rocket ship than THINX was in this structure. So like learnings, revelations happen from that experience, and I don't, regret any of it. And, and that's it. It's like, how can I take those lessons and apply it? How do I create a postmortem? Like, I think everyone has to should put together a postmortem. I hate the word should, but it'd be great if people put together a postmortem after they went through something challenging and say, oh, this is all the learnings, this is all the lessons that I do differently. And actually writing those down has been super integral for me to integrate that into the next business.
I wonder how you have handled the backstabbing and the criticism and the rumors and that kind of thing, and then at the same time managed to stay open and in your heart and soft, because that's a delicate art, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was shocked by the backstabbing and the lies and all the crazy stuff said about me in the public and all of that. It also, like, I talk to all of my friends who are huge successful entrepreneurs or successful actors or whatever, and they're just like, that's just part of being someone in the world, that you become a target and people just want to say anything about you and talk shit about you to make themselves feel better. And you just have to let that go. And I think in the beginning, it's like, oh my God, this is so shocking. Like, how could people even believe that when they don't even know me or know anything of what actually happened? They have no clue. Yeah, it took a minute to be like, to recalibrate. But I think for me, it was just like, again, number one is my integrity. I knew who I am. I knew what my truth is. I know like whatever's being said is just, complete craziness. And so just like, again, like checking in with myself and really just saying, no, like, I know you. And then of course, my whole tribe, my whole community of incredible friends really, really held me so deeply. And just, we all cried together. Like it was all of our pain, collective pain. So I got to, get it all out. And I think from that place of having my tribe just be there to support me. And they're like, don't listen to this crazy stuff. Like, we know, like anyone who knows you, spend a second with you, knows who you are. Still, it was very hard for me. And I think, but the good news is like, it led me down a path of deep inner looking, a deep inner spiritual journey of truth and what is truth? What is truth to each individual person? What is my truth? Like, what do I care about? What does healing look like for me from this experience? And how has that served me moving forward? It's just been a beautiful, beautiful journey. So it's just such an interesting thing because, yeah, it's the high school bitchy, backstabby vibes is never fun, especially in a world where women are supposed to be supporting each other. And, I think for me, like most of my challenges have been with other women. I have had no issues with men in my businesses at all, really. That's hard for me to swallow because I'm in the equality game and I want women to feel equal. Women are equal. I want women to know that. And yet, because literally, like white women got the right to vote in 1920, and then women of color got the right to vote in 1965, and then Asian American women and like me and Native Americans and other ethnicities, even later than 1965, 1975, like barely, like a few years ago did the amendment pass where every woman of every ethnicity and language could vote. And it's sort of a pretty crazy thing to think about how in this generation, this patriarchal preconditioning, we're all breathing that air. We're all breathing the air of how it's been in society for so long. And so as a result, it's just like the undoing is so, so, so important because women just got the right to vote and are in the workforce, are just moving up the ranks in the business world. It's still a kind of a elbowing each other for that one seat at the table versus recognizing there's plenty of seats at the table that we can create together if we link arms and not if we catfight each other. And so there's still that territorial cat fighting that needs to change because it really comes down to just feeling safe that we can do this together, that we're going to do this together, that we're not going to cut each other out of the storyline. And women, like just nature and nurture, like, women are they protective of their offspring. It's more, there's a territorialism that's there versus men who kind of just sow their seed and, and sort of sprinkle everyone. They don't care. They want more. That mentality in business is an interesting one because there's this old boys club where the boys kind of support each other and the women, it's coming up, but there's still a lot of like, oh, I really love that you're successful, talking shit behind their back after they leave, like there's still that vibe that's there that's so unsafe and unsettling because guys are like, oh yeah, like they just don't go into details, whereas women are a lot more detail oriented in a lot of ways. And we have to recognize that when it comes to advancing in business or advancing in other areas where there's that juxtaposition of the backstabbiness and the sisters who really, really align, and the sisters who, like, I have a deep sisterhood of girls and women who just, we clap for each other. And like even if like we're all going through different things, like we're a unit of sisters who, and we meet every single week. I have a women's group, basically some of our best girlfriends talk every single Monday evenings. Each person gets time to share, and then we get to all give feedback. And it's a more formal setting of, instead of having your girlfriend just kind of talk, like actually creating a container of how to connect deeply together with each other. And so we do that every single Monday. And it's been such a beautiful journey of deep healing together collectively, where we're in it together. And this is what tribes originally was. Like it's a place where people really, really supported each other, where your win is my win is your win. And there's no difference between that.
Absolutely. I mean, that's why I wanted to join together in this reclamation of worth and that understanding that, yeah, that we can all rise together. What does that mean to you, a reclamation of worth?
I think it's just a deep inner knowing that I am loved, that I am loved, that I'm supported, that I'm safe. Also reading a book called Crucial Conversations. And one of the things is like, is if you create a safe space, then you can talk about anything. And, Andrew and I had a session yesterday with our couples therapist, talk about all, we're starting a weekly thing just to kind of clear any feelings, especially when we're during COVID, if there's any things, and the baby making and all the things. He talked about like some of the languaging that we could use with each other, where it's like, it's not about the content It's always about the emotion below the content. And so if we're entering a really challenging conversation where the content, it's already shaky, we have to first emotionally become safe together. Then we can talk about the content. Because like going in, for example, I could say like, I'm feeling nervous because of this. And he can say like, I'm feeling angry because of this. And coming from a deeper emotional state. And it's like, oh, okay. Like, I don't want you to feel angry. I don't want you to feel nervous. Let's now that we have that undertone of like safety and understanding, now let's talk about the content of whatever we're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to suggest that everyone reads Disruptor because it's very like succinct and like powerful. And I really liked that you shared a lot about investing. And I think that's a really powerful piece for all women, especially that haven't maybe grown up around those conversations or been involved in those conversations to actually understand what their options are. So yeah, if you want to share anything about investing, feel free. But I really loved your iteration of the victim, persecutor, rescuer triangle, and feel like that's something that will really serve everyone.
Yeah. But first let me talk about the investing part. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because women haven't had agency over their own finances for a really long time. This is the first time that women are like saving their own money and like building their own wealth. There's a desire to just keep that in your savings account, in your coffers, because you don't necessarily trust the markets, and it's the old boys club and it's the system. And so women just keep their money in their savings account like I did until I was like literally in my mid-30s. What I realized was, wait, like in all the exploration and in writing this book, like women prefer downside protection 7 times more than men. So women actually would rather like protect from a downside issue than a man would. So like say the markets are kind of turbulent, but you know that net over 10 years, you're making 10% year over year on your money. Like men will have no problem doing that. Whereas women, they're like, no, when it's a bad time, I want to protect my money during the downturn. And so therefore I'm going to prioritize downside protection over the potential gains. Because of that, men build wealth so much faster than women until women decide to throw in the market as well and grow at the same rate. So there's this inequality comes from this lack of trust in the system. And so Disruptor talks a lot about like, what are some of the places you can put your money where it's really simple and easy, where you just take some of your money, even if it's $100 a week or $100 a month. And instead of keeping your savings account, you put it through one of these investment vehicles that I talked about in my book, where you can let that grow. Even if it's $100, like compounding. I talk about compounding in my book as well, like how it works in a really simple way. It's an exponential growth thing when it comes to your money. Like women have to play that game too in order to really, really compete from a wealth equality standpoint. So the book really goes over what are some of the vehicles you can put your money into, even if it's a small amount, and let that grow. Because a lot of women think, well, I need to have a certain amount of money to invest. And the answer is no, you don't. You can put as little as $100 into an investment vehicle and let that grow and grow and grow and grow and grow over time. And all of a sudden in 10 years, you have tens and tens and tens of thousands of dollars or more, depending on how the market does. That part of the book is critical, I think, in the disruptive mentality for women. So this chapter is really about haters gonna hate. So how the book is divided is there's a common belief in society that's held right now, and then the disruption in the book. And so the common belief is like haters gonna hate. Once a hater, always a hater. And the disruption is haters exist within all of us. The faster we can catch ourselves acting out as a hater, the faster we can go back to being love hers. And so the idea is that the drama triangle was created by this guy named this doctor named Stephen Cartman. Basically, how he breaks it down is the drama triangle. There's the victim, there's the persecutor, and then there's the rescuer. So how it works is, the victim is the poor me, the powerless, the hopeless, the something, like I'm going through something really, really hard. Yes, there are real victims of awful things that happen. But then there's also like, how do we act? Do we act victimized, or do we act empowered? So there's a whole disruptive way of thinking about it instead. So the victim is the poor me, the hate hers present here. It's like kind of has this negative undertone. The persecutor is the person like where it's like all your fault, and critical, blame, takedown, self-righteous, and the hate her is present here too. And the rescuer is the pity party, the poor you to the victim who's just sort of egging on the victim to feel even more victimized, kind of like the radical left, to be honest. There is a level of victim, rescuing that's happening, but it's really just spiritual bypassing in a way, like where it's just like saying things on Instagram, but really not believing them. And it's kind of crazy. This whole triangle has a negative reinforcement loop. It's like the hate her version of ourselves is present here. It's a negative reinforcement loop. Whereas what I came up with is the disruptor triangle, which is it's a positive reinforcement loop. So instead of the victim, it's the disruptor. And the disruptor, is grateful for the lessons, moves through problems quickly after taking time to really heal, takes tangible steps to resolve, sees experience as opportunities to grow. So it's a positive reinforcement loop. Like you go, instead of being a victim, you're a disruptor. You're like, okay, that was hard. Like I went through something like, whoa, but like that was a disruptive moment where I got to shake things up. Instead of the persecutor, which is it's all your fault person, it's the darer. The darer dares the disruptor to be great, challenges them to grow, sets boundaries to play in. So it's someone who's positive reinforcement loop. It's someone who's positively supporting the disruptor instead of the persecutor blaming the victim. And then instead of the rescuer, who's the pity party, poor you, sort of social justice warrior types, it's the mentor. The mentor is the person who provides a space for a person to purge all their feelings, help organize their thoughts. He holds a person accountable. They sees a disruptor as her highest self. And so like the mentor replaces the rescuer. The rescuer is like this, again, like feeds the victimhood. The persecutor feeds the victimhood. Whereas the mentor coaches the disruptor. The darer dares the disruptor. And so it's a different positive reinforcement loop that we can dare ourselves and dare others to be great. We can disrupt these negative thought patterns of our victimhood. We can, really mentor and seek mentorship and find people who can guide us in a way that we want to be guided instead of feeling like enabled by people who just want to stoke the victimhood thing for mostly self-gain. So it's a new way of thinking. And I think society today is in such a negative reinforcement loop, especially with media and incentives and social media and all of that. And all of those incentives support the drama triangle, the persecutor, the victim, the rescuer. And if we can all change our mentality to the disruptor triangle, where it's the disruptor, the mentor, the darer, the world, the agency that we have, the feelings that we have, our emotional up-leveling will happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you, Miki. That is a fabulous place to leave us.
Yeah. Well, this was really awesome. And thank you for giving me the space to share. And if anybody wants to follow up and ask me questions, you can reach out to me on my website, mikiagrawal.com, or through my DMs on Insta.
Yeah, and they can enjoy your creativity on Instagram, which is, brilliant.
Oh my goodness.
Thank you, Miki.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for spending your precious time with us. As always, you can find links to everything we mentioned in this episode, download our book, and discover so much more over on the blog. We don't believe in selling you things you don't need through this podcast, and so it's made possible with you, our community. If you loved this and would like to fund our show with a monthly donation or join our online group to connect with other listeners, please visit www.thefutureisbeautiful.co and click on Community and Support. Please also share with friends, hit subscribe, and leave us a review so we can grow. Those gold stars really help others find us, so these ideas can spread. Here is to us, creating a beautiful future together. The Future is Beautiful is made by an all-female team working voluntarily or on reduced rates until our listener support grows. If you have been moved by anything you heard here, please donate the equivalent of buying us a drink. All donations make a huge difference to us and will allow us to keep doing this and remain advertising free. Until next time, I leave you with this question: how will you create beauty in the world?